Call the executive committee meeting to order.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
There a motion to approve the minutes of April 8th.
So move as
Second.
presented.
Discussion on the minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Carries. If anyone has any conflicts of interest, just let us know when we get to that matter. Is there any public comment? We need to receive any information from supervisors not seated as committee members.
Mr. Rowdy's here. Let me see if he has anything to say. Supervisor Rowdy, did you have anything to say?
Yes, I do. What I want to talk about is the sports ag complex that's on the agenda today. And months ago, I talked to the administrator and was trying to get a little more information on this. And at the time, I told him I wasn't in favor of it, and I'm still not in favor of it. And I'm bringing that to your attention because I've talked to other supervisors, and I haven't talked to one supervisor that is in favor of it. So shouldn't at some point we do a resolution just asking, are you in favor or not? And possibly then that would either keep the process going or it could stop the process depending on the vote. So I think it's something we all should think about at this time. So thank you.
Okay, do we have any reports, presentations? We have a COVID-19 budget update.
So just an overview. We've spent so far on COVID-19, $999,000 and change. And we've gotten back through grant funds, $982,000 and change. So right now it's only taxing the general fund to about $16,000. And we have some level of belief we can recapture that $16,000 as well. So that's good news. We are in the audit process right now, and we do know that, for example, Community Service Division is going to return just north of $1.6 million to the fund balance at the end of the year. A lot of that is savings because of COVID-19, because a lot of their costs that would normally be levy dollars were rerouted for COVID-19 response. There were subsequent grants to receive that. So a lot of that million was community service cost that was rerouted to COVID-19. Sales tax is still pretty flat for the year. April was up a lot from April of last year, and considering January through March were flat. But I don't know what to make of that because April's also when the stimulus checks came out. So April was an inordinate sales tax month. But, you know, there's some articles out there that we looked at and nobody can really interpret whether that was stimulus check or some kind of recovery. Not all I've got.
Question, Mr. Chair. When is their audit going to be done? August?
The auditors came back yesterday. They're here this week. We'll have the final audit report in July as usual. We should be wrapped up end of June. Probably have our report the 1st of July, then the auditors will present it this July.
Who's their auditor company?
Clifton Larson Allen.
They make any recommendations, strengths or weaknesses?
That won't come out till the report. Once we get the report, they'll make those assessments.
Does their audit affect our bond rating?
It can. We provide our audit results to our banks, like Bremer, when we get our last time we got our loan. And if we go to bond market, they'll look at our audited financial statements and our past performance, our DUN rating, things like that. Our DUNS number, which is like a credit rating for.
What's our current bond rating?
I think for How about an update from the county administrator?
That's got a couple of pictures here to you. As you recall, one of the things I was tasked with was going out and speaking. I think I've got some slides in there, Chad. Right. To get public awareness and to find out if there are any issues, concerns, ideas, opportunities. And there seems to be, everybody has a different idea of what it is. So I thought I'd just put together a couple of places that we found to give you a visual of what this may or may not look like, I should say. You can go ahead and show the first slide. What I will say is, since I think the last time I've discussed it with this group, I've met with a variety of groups, the Fair Society, had a municipal roundtable with municipal leaders, and also went to the Towns Association to present it. As you recall, the intent was to look at the future of Polk County and what types of things might get us there in that direction. We have made no decision to do this. We've made no decision to eliminate it, but rather we're looking at this because it has generated some interest in the groups that I've talked with as a way that will help our youth, help all generations here in the county, you know, whether it be a civic center or whatever, would bring businesses to the area and could also be a hub for our trails. So we look at it as something that would draw people to this county, bring families to the area to say, hey, what a great investment in this community. These people are forward thinking. They may choose to live here, put their kids in our schools and so on. So that's kind of the vision. I gave you the handouts because these things are small, but we just went around the country and identified, and these are popping up, you know, in a variety of places. But Sand Mountain, Alabama has one, and while you can't see it up here so well, that's why I gave you the copies. You can see the variety of types of resources, a lot of different. So that may be of something that this county would say, hey, some of those might apply here, some may not. Go to the next slide, please. And that runs down the different types of facilities. Now, you're going to see, I think I have 3 in here, 3 different examples, and they all have different items. We can't have something that has everything, right? So we will have to spend some time and energy to look at what is it that this community or this county needs, or really this region. Those are just some of the examples, from indoor aquatics to playgrounds, to dog parks, to tracks, volleyball, baseball, softball, those types of things. These are something that could be used throughout the year in a variety of different capacities, whether it be sports, whether it be events, concerts at night, meetings, conferences, and you can imagine what types of ancillary businesses come as a result of that. The hotels, restaurants, retail, those types of things. You can go to the next one. From an aerial perspective, you can see, so everybody said, okay, you know, I've talked to some of these companies and they say, you know, we do some of these that are like a YMCA with a building, some facilities there, maybe some park area around it. Then you have some where you have a lot of fields. And that's where we said maybe 100 to 200 acres involved in this, but it would all depend on what types of activities and events we want to host. Next slide. This is in Sweetwater, which I can't remember what state is. Oh, Wyoming.
Wyoming, I've been to that one many times.
Yeah. Oh, you have? For your horse event? Okay. Again, just an aerial look there, and you can see they have a Moto X track, horse stalls, stock car track. So they're kind of into some different types of activities. And then they have the buildings where they have exhibit hall, trade show, indoor arena. And again, that's the type of thing that works here. But I know we can have consultants that can lay out what the demand is around here and the need. Next slide. There are just some of the different things. Here they also have campgrounds. One of the things I've noticed about anything with stock or equestrian activities, they draw people from a far distance with a lot of heavy equipment, and they like to camp. So they bring their nice trailers and they stay in the trailers. And so you get a small community out there over the period of those events. But this one has Speedway. The other thing I noticed about these, many of them, or at least the examples I have here, are not in the big cities. You got them in big cities, but there you usually have arenas for the big rock concerts and professional sports. But a lot of these might be an hour to 3 hours from metropolitan areas. And what they find is that draws people, it's not the population of where it is, but the population that draws them in. Next one, Silver Lakes, California. Now this one was a little different in that it's not in a city, but it's an hour and a half from Los Angeles and San Diego. So they have like 14 million to draw from. But I put it in here because I like the way they had it set up with an equestrian center. You can go to the next slide. Soccer is huge there. So, and I would just say, never would we be anything this large, I guess. But you can scale it down. So, whatever they chose soccer, they have 24 full-size fields. Here it may be 6. I don't know, but they use it as not only sports for kids and adults, but then also for the equestrian center, and then they bring in the restaurants and a hotel nearby and that type of thing. That's how it's laid out. It's next to an interstate, but again, next to a big city. Okay. I also just wanted to say kind of the next step in this. And again, this is not something this is just exploratory. But we did want to say, okay, if we need more information, what is it you all would want next? And really, it's a matter of taking the next step to do a market study. What that market study would be, I don't think it's a long process. It's not expensive. But they analyze, a consultant company, we have one we've talked to that has done over 800 of these, another has done 1,500 of these. What they do is they look at what's the demand. In other words, what resources are in the area? What is it that the public is interested in? What are the kids involved in? What other types of recreational activities do people want in this area? They'll do that through their sources, associations, and so on. And then they do some on-the-ground research. But they'll find out what it is would be of need. Not expensive. Then, if that's something that says, here are the types of things that are needed in this area, then the next step would be a feasibility study. That would be a more comprehensive study in which not only would they tell us, yeah, these are the types of things people want, but they could also give us an idea of how much it's going to cost, how we could fund it, whether or not it would pay for itself, that type of thing. So by doing that study, that's when we could say, okay, is this a no or a no-go, and have confidence that we're going in the right direction. The bottom line is, not committing anything yet, but rather we're trying to do this in a way that we do our research first before we make up in our minds, this is what we're going to do. Let's do our research, see what our chances are of success, how it should be organized, how it's going to be paid for. How much the private sector and those types of things. What would the county investment be? And then you come up with a model, and then you could start saying, okay, this is something that makes sense. So that's just an update. Hard to take this long. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer this.
Making any comments, questions?
My comment would just be, I appreciate you keep going on this, and it's good to know if it's something we need or not need, and I support what the staff is doing to get us that information. I think it's about the future of Polk County, about the youth of Polk County, So I'm all 100% for researching it. The day we got to spend real dollars, obviously we'd have enough information. So like Supervisor Rowdy said, at some day we're going to want to make a good decision whether we keep going for it or not. We need to do a little more homework before we, I think, have a resolution to say whether we keep going. I mean, we'll have that resolution someday. I don't think right now is the time to do it, would be my personal comment.
I totally agree. I think it's something we should not overlook. We should definitely pursue it, and find out what the options are. Whether it's feasible for this particular area, we got a pretty good drawing population to draw from in the close proximity to this area. We're looked at as a recreational area already in a number of different things, and I think expanding upon that idea and that knowledge is basically is important.
Anybody else want to comment? All right, we got a few resolutions. Maybe before we start on them, should we have a little discussion? I mean, is this the right committee for these resolutions? Was it this committee that tried to get the ball rolling on this and get something started? Is that why they're here?
Yeah, I discussed it with Chad. We discussed it with the Counties Association about, I think we have to have our resolutions to them by June, sometime in June. Yeah. And the fact that there's, committee chairs on this committee from every committee, and it's kind of a broad, these are just lobbying resolutions, so it doesn't really affect anything we're doing. I discussed it with Chad, and I got to, give a shout out. Chad did a great job putting these things together and reached out, and we reached out to the counties associations, had them review them, and we felt like this was a good place just to bring them here. And if there's things that we need, nothing binding for the county in them, and we can just review them here and pass them on to the county board, and maybe do them at committee of the whole at the county board. Or we could do them one by one too. It doesn't matter, but that's why they came
All
here.
right. Just so we get a reason that this committee is seeing them and not.
Well, public protection, one of them has basically got some tie into public protection. We got the chair here, and one's got some health issues. We got there here, and we got environmental, everyone's here, general government guys here. So I think they're not very controversial at all.
Right. No, I didn't think it would be controversial.
Okay.
We got them. Another committee doesn't need them before they get to go.
I don't think so. But Chad can talk about it more. I mean,
You read these, I look, generally, there's something that affects every committee in this county. I mean, you're looking at, it looks like public protection, but these substance abuse issues, all of these are affecting the county in every aspect of it. I would just suggest that we move into the county board in hopes that they will take the time to read these resolutions and get the general feeling and effect of what they're designed for. I thought they were well designed for the purpose of letting the state legislators know how we feel, and just move them on to the county board and let them make the decision.
And I guess that was my thinking, we've approached this methamphetamine, substance abuse, public safety thing as this holistic approach where we present it to each committee because it does really affect everybody in different ways. So these are kind of all-inclusive resolutions, I think, that kind of cap that off. So that was kind of the thinking behind it. I don't know that any one resolution is specific to any one subject area committee as far as only what they deal with. They're kind of encompassing.
And if we get into the county board and a committee of the whole, the entire board will be able to be in on the discussion.
I think so. I think then that gives Chad a chance to explain. We don't need to do it again. I would second Jay's motion to move them to the county board. Is that with an approval, Jay, or just move them? Move them. I'll second that. And then let Chad do the explanation of them at the county board on committee of the whole.
Are you okay with that? We don't have to have a full-blown discussion here today. We can have it at the county. All right, so we're gonna say that we're gonna do all three of them. Is your motion, Jay, to send all
Yes.
three of these? And the second is,
Yep, good with that.
did anybody want discussion on them? Because it says discuss. We have it at the,
I think we had enough of it. I think
Have it at the.
we'll have it at the county board.
right? All those in favor? Great. We have our annual review of existing MOUs.
Yeah, this is something the committee wanted added to the work plan, because next month, I don't remember, either next month or the following month is when we look at their performance. Next month, we look at their performance, the outside agencies, and the following month is when we look at their additional funding requests. So we sent the MOUs in your packets for the existing groups that we fund and provide outside funding to, for you guys to review. And basically, if you have any questions about those MOUs, any concerns about the existing MOUs, this will be the time for the executive committee to start looking at if they want them changed or issues addressed with them.
All right, anybody have anything? Want to lead us in a conversation on them?
He's all up to date.
Well, we included the FAIR MOU, which is no longer in effect, but I thought it was important for you guys to see what FAIR was there. That one's still ongoing.
The other aspect of this is we actually officially canceled all MOUs on trails because we found that most of our MOUs were so outdated and groups had changed and so on. So we canceled it, but then asked everybody who's interested, and there weren't that many. I think it was the snowmobile and the Stour. I can't recall any others right now on trails. So the snowmobile has actually redone with us their MOU, and we think it's very good. We just need to get it reviewed legally. The other two groups who have since expressed interest in having an MOU are two equestrian groups. And so we're going to review those. The challenge on those is they want us, we kind of label it as they want a seat at the table, but it's not a regular MOU where we contract and say, you're responsible for these activities. So I'll talk with them and say, what specifically is it you want to do for this entire year to make sure that it is an active MOU and not just an agreement of understanding. Lobbying position is kind of what they sounded like. They do not now. The Gandy did not have an MOU with us, if I'm correct on that. Right, now they do some things in Burnett, and sometimes they would want to come down and do some things. And they reached out to us, but it was more of a question, as was Stour's. It was more of a, question of who's going to do this or that. And, but they didn't express an interest.
Anybody have anything on the MOUs? The one they wanted us?
Along that note, I'm drafting the letter for the outside agencies to go out this week, requesting their annual performance and their funding requests and all. From these MOUs, is there anything the committee wants to specifically see from any of these groups in their annual report. I mean, I've got the things that I think they should show, but is there anything that you guys specifically want a particular group to address in their annual report?
It's all outside groups.
It's all of the ones we fund, yes, that come to us for funding. Oh, let's see, we've got the fair, the historical society, like 5. Tourism, EDC,
Central.
West Central. So there'll be 5 of them, I believe.
Scab, some of those.
No,
We don't need that.
No.
We got that. Extension. Something to us.
Well, Extension does kind of there's a little, we don't fund them as an outside agency, we fund them as a department within the county. So we do that one a little differently. So we get like,
we don't fund them to any great extent, do we? Or
About 3,000, couple thousand bucks.
yeah, a couple $1,000s. You know, we tend to look at the ones like tourism, we fund highly, EDC. Those we fund at much higher levels. They've always done performance, you know, supposed to do performance and provide us bank records and that kind of stuff.
I have one question. So Chad, you said I have my things that I want. What are those things?
Some financial performance standards, you know, we talked about with tourism, like number of programs presented, outreach, things like, there were some notes I took from last year when we talked about this that I was going to put in there, kind of marching orders you guys gave me last year, that I've been working on those metrics. I've just tried to define some metrics for each of the groups. Now, understanding that, like, for example, Historical Society, a lot's been closed this year, but with them, we talked about, and we actually put in that MOU, I think you guys saw it in there, about number of visitors per year, educational programs, those when they're open, those kind of things, you know, those kind of metrics.
I know we're going to be talking about the fair MOU. Are we talking about that today or not? Or this would be the time to talk about it
yeah, the fair MOU we'll talk about. We're
separately?
merged it into the end of this meeting and the beginning of the next.
So that's specifically, but you know, there's an MOU. Just to kind of give the committee an update, we were moving a house the other day, right? So I went down to the fairgrounds. We're right over there moving. So I drove in there and looked around, and what surprised me about being at the fairgrounds the other day was, you know, the fairgrounds look really nice and maintained around all their buildings. The grass was cut. But, you know, I don't know if the MOU would require this, but in the equestrian area, you know, and I know the fairgrounds wasn't used much, but everything was manicured on the whole property except the equestrian area. The weeds were belt high through the whole, and, you know, a lot of people donated that sand. I talked to the people that actually did the work there and donated all the work to the fair. And the weeds were up to your waist in the whole arena. And then the practice arena, the fence was falling down. There's actually grass growing in it, weeds. So clearly someone made a decision not to do any maintenance on the equestrian piece of the fairgrounds. And you just don't go in a year later and just think you're going to grate those weeds out of there. So there's where I think an MOU, I would think you would want to make sure that who's ever in charge of taking care of the property, they take care of the entire property. So that was disappointing. And I would want, I guess, an MOU that there be some kind of and that's just one issue. There could be other issues with other MOUs. If someone's taking care of a trail, you know, are they really taking care of the trail to our standards, right? Or what the public would think. That metric, it would be nice for us to know whether or not someone is following what the intent of the MOU is. Maybe it's not spelled out, but to me, I would have thought someone would have been mowing the weeds, even though they weren't allowing anyone to use the property. Someone would have been taking care of it as well as other places on the property. So just share that with you. Or buildings being painted. I talked to a lot of fair people, or a lot of people about the fair this last week or two because it's on the agenda. And the thing I heard over and over and over is, why do our buildings look so bad at the fairgrounds? They're absolutely terrible looking. They're paint falling off. And again, with our MOU address, who's responsible for keeping the buildings painted and keeping them in good shape? Have roofs, whatever they are. But that's the one that jumps out at me the most.
We're definitely gonna get to that. Anything on any of the other MOUs would explain why you can see the. Get together for us.
The plan is I'll send out the letter Friday to each of the agencies, asking them to have their annual reports submitted by the first week of June. That way we'll have those for next week. Well, that's kind of the thing. This updating these MOUs has kind of become a new thing that we've started to address because they just kind of existed unendingly. And so we've started looking at them much more closely and reevaluating them. Now, every year, we've always asked for their additional funding request by July. But the piece that was missing is looking at the existing MOU, looking at their performance, and then looking at the funding request. So we built that into the work plans. We've got the May MOU review, the June performance indicators, the July funding request.
So, tourism, there was discussion on that, and we wanted, requested some changes and put in the MOU that they do some things that we thought was important for their continued funding. And so this is their chance to update us on how they progressed in meeting the request.
All right, how about our update our 2021 work plan?
I went through it this month when we did the agenda like I normally do, and I don't see anything, but if you guys have anything to add to it.
Looks like we have a little work to do in June, but nothing July, August.
Yeah, that's really budget season, so it tends to, committees tend to get to work on it. Well, so July, the additional funding requests go to general government. Yeah, you guys will get the performance indicators in June. And then general government gets the funding request in July. So save the county a few $100s.
All right. Don't have any subject matters for the next meeting? June 10th meeting?
You will for
Yeah.
the
MOU discussions.
Anyone has anything, get it to Chad or Vince?
Yeah, I think we'll also, similar to this month, have a recommendation would be to have a joint discussion regarding the progress with the fair MOU as well. So that may be something that we'll do with both the general government and that.
All right, that'll lead us right into a discussion and possible action regarding Polk County Fairgrounds and the Fair Society MOU.
So with that, should we not adjourn till 10 o'clock?
Yeah, I think the plan was to put this at the end of the agenda so that many of you are in both committees and we didn't want to do the same presentation twice. So that was our thought.
We're thinking.
Because you want to leave.
Time
don't
wise.
you?
Well, is there anything, any supervisors on this committee, any information they can get that they wouldn't have to wait 55 minutes to get it?
Yeah, that is a long time.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly just
We could do it now
do it
and
twice.
then do it again for later group, then make more questions might come up.
Yeah.
But we got the time.
What's your pleasure? Wait,
We'll get the information eventually.
wait,
Wait.
wait. Chris, you're getting it once or twice. You want it once or twice?
matter to me.
Once is enough.
We've already heard it, fortunately.
All right, is there anything else anyone had got? You have?
Mr. Chair. A few months ago, we brought up to the executive committee about, starting this business ag advisory. And I think, Vince, you had some names and you want to give us an update on that? Is that proper, Mr. Chair?
Well, I don't really know what you're talking about, but is it?
I think,
We'll give it to Lloyd.
you were in Arizona when the idea bubbled up and the thought was, when you come back, let's talk. And then we'll go through the process. And I would recommend that maybe we talk and then we put together, your proposed approach or resolution or whatever we need. And maybe that's something we can talk about at the next meeting.
Might be something on 16, you can pass that, bring it up next month.
Yeah.
Appropriately.
Yeah, I'll put it on for an agenda item.
The idea to get business and ag people, any concerns or influence to the county board so that we have a relationship. This is pretty common in St. Croix and some of the
Bring it up for
other
a
counties. And since we don't, years ago, we always, from the time of initiation, it's always an ag committee. And with 5 people and then
You're not gonna give us it all right now, are you? Okay. I think we're all in agreement that. We're all in agreement, it needs to be an agenda item for next meeting, and then we can absolutely.
Yep.
Discussion if we need a resolution to get it going. One to be developed then.
just a topic that we,
I'll schedule time with you.
Anything else?
Mentor.
Oh, I guess you can, we're.
Unfortunately, I can't be here at 10. I gotta be upstairs in a meeting. So being on the representative on the fair board, I guess I had a couple things I'd like to say.
Maybe what we should do is just make sure we say Supervisor Warrendahl is actually talking to us on agenda number 6. He missed that.
Some information.
Yeah. Then it'd be appropriate, I would think, Chair, for him to talk to us. That's okay.
Yep.
I sit on both sides of the fence here. I sit on the fair board. I don't get in on their closed meetings, leave. They get in on their daily business, what they're doing, type business. Thing that they're all volunteers. They're just citizens of Polk County trying to do a good thing. The youth, the crafters, horse people, everybody that's using the fairground. Not business people. They don't have business backgrounds. They don't. When it comes to doing business, it's difficult. It's more difficult than it would be for somebody with a business background.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've learned this last week was my grandson had the grand champion corn 3 years ago. So we bought our own corn planter, and over the weekend we were planting corn. He meticulously got involved in that. He's only 14. I mean, he wanted to make sure that that depth was right, the fertilizer was right, everything was right, so that he could have another chance at the grand champion corn. And when we're making these decisions about the fairgrounds, we don't want to forget about those people that are energized, learning, all that type of thing. Every single project in that fair has a family attached to it, whether it's a photograph, archery target, a horse, pig, quality meat sales. You know, every one of them projects has got a family attached. I think we got to think about that side of it a little bit. I realize there's business side to it too.
I think we need to think about what each and every one of them projects does for those kids. How it affects them when they get a blue ribbon, how proud they are. Sitting on both sides of the fence. That's kind of my observation. Sitting there. I don't see a bad person sitting around it. All have good intentions. May not be business people, I understand. They all have good intentions.
All right,
I sat on the fair board. Outside committee on it. And I, did the fair myself way back years ago. And I'm just thoroughly impressed with dedication that we can, in Polk County, can get together a bunch of volunteers. Just do the dedicated work that they do. In Wisconsin counties, we always brought up on some committee about how the fair is going around the state. And we are one of the few counties that don't put at least $100,000 a year or more. A couple of counties that take their entire funding from revenue source on sales tax, donate it to running fair. We're really fortunate that we've got these people that run it economically as we do.
Thanks for the time.
all right, I think we can probably turn,
Thank you.
well, someone will make that motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Chair, before we adjourn, seems like the last couple meetings, we've got done rather early. Do you think we could go back to maybe a 9 o'clock start time?
I would say we could, but we would absolutely be done at 10. We can't schedule general government for a 10 a.m. start and then run into it. We did it once, and only once, but,
I don't care, it's your call.
well, it isn't just my call. I mean, I would say that, what is the flavor of the whole committee? I mean, yeah,
We had some hot topics there for a little while, and it seemed
Yeah.
like we had a lot of stuff thrown on our plate, but it seems like now, just
I would agree with that and except I'm just wondering with the presentations from 5 groups next week. And if we have questions for some of them, and we can keep the presentations to 10 minutes.
what are the presentations?
The or the outside agencies coming in.
I thought we were just getting reports. They're coming in.
Well, that's a good question. That's
I
a
didn't
that's a
hear
good
that.
question. You guys just want reports or do you want presentations?
I would say they can come in when the funding.
Yeah, I don't need a presentation.
I don't think, yeah.
That is a good question. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'd rather everyone hear their,
Yeah, because it isn't us giving them money, it's the county board. All right. And let's put a 9 a.m. start for our next meeting and unless we get a bunch of agenda items come up.
or you just make us be done at 10 o'clock. There you go. It can get bumped till next.
Yeah,
We can
did it
determine.
before where we had like 3, 4 items left, like pick one.
Yep.
Out of time.
Nothing fell apart by us picking one out of the 3.
So. All right, well, we had a motion to adjourn, but we didn't have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
We're adjourning is all
We're adjourning, but I guess anyone from this committee that wants to stay.
that's what we're doing.
If they want to stay for the.
They can participate in general government discussion on that